Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Mr. Dogbo333, and welcome back to Hearts of Iron for Kaiserreich, Ukraine. In the last video, Black Monday hit us, and so we're trying to get ourselves out of this, this little issue that we're in right now. So, we're going to go ahead. We're dropping the gold standard right now. Hopefully that'll help us out a little bit. Uh-oh. As predicted by many, the practical implication of the recent proposals met several obstacles. Questions of quotas for representation, lack of engagement between local class organizations, and centralized bureaucracy, general chaos on all levels of government due to the ongoing crisis. All that turned the process of formation of a council into a bureaucratic nightmare. Lists of candidates are being redrafted almost every day as different organizations, political and economic, vie for representation. The date of a first session has already been rescheduled several times. Obviously, URDP deputies cannot pass the opportunity to point out these developments in their speeches, and all difficulties with the council are carefully covered in the party press. Well, it was worth a shot. Let's see. For some time now, the hryvnias have been tied to the gold standard as the base of our currency. While in the past, as aforementioned, this afforded some degree of stability to our financial system. In the wake of Black Monday, it has quickly become a detriment. The gold standard is now being widely abandoned across Europe as too inflexible to react to the changing realities of economy. However, there's no consensus if we should trust the markets and let them value the hryvnia, which is potentially volatile, but also great financial independence, or tied to the German mark, as that is still the most stable currency in Europe, despite the crisis. Let's leave it floating. And then from here, let's do creation of state corporations. Instead of selling failed state-bailed businesses to private capitalists, they should be put under state control for the time being to ensure their fiscal responsibility. It is true that the highly centralized bureaucracy of the Ukrainian state is sluggish in its response to the economic crisis. To alleviate this, deputies from several factions of the Soim have suggested empowering local authorities in the most hard-hit regions. Additionally, they plan to create special offices for every major Ukrainian region tasked with coordinating immediate responses to the crisis with local business, professional, and political organizations. While this initiative has significant support from the Soim, especially among independents associated with Crimean deputy Asan Sabri Ivaznov, there are rumors of several high-ranking members of the HAD reaching out to that man's close circle over the matter. Apparently, this secretive clique fears that delegating too much power to the regions suffering from unrest will only embolden local insurgencies and provocateurs, and besides, only strong central authorities able to curtail the worst excesses of the crisis within acceptable timeframes. It's just rumors. Uh-oh. As the already miserable situation of Western Ukraine was plunged into total hopelessness by the economic crisis, it didn't take much to set it aflame. Massive protests have been organized across the West, and in many places, the police have been confined to their stations by the angry peasants. Exiled Republican leaders such as Petliura and Vinichenko have returned to Ukraine and started organizing rallies for civilian non-obedience. As political front for change, the most major democratic and socialist parties have formed the VDR, All Ukrainian Democratic Movement, composed of all those parties, strongly supported by the Borbasist and even DP, this alliance is united behind Petliura in the cause of advocating major change or even revolution in Ukraine. The VDR has obviously been declared just as illegal as other Petliura projects, but in the current situation they are just out of reach. Revolutionaries, a whole bunch of them. No. It turns out that rumors of SHD meddling weren't entirely unfounded. General Poltavets Ostrianskia was seen visiting the hetman's private residence several times in the span of just a few days. Colonel Homzen was reported meeting with high-ranking bureaucrats from the Ministries of Interior and Finance. While it is unknown if those meetings have borne any fruit, it's nonetheless a very worrying sign, and many members of Soim are alarmed about possible developments. Proceed with caution. Well, we're getting there recovery-wise. Well, support-wise, at least. During the Central Powers occupation of Ukraine in 1917, an upstart Ukrainophile Archduke from Austria led his Sikh riflemen into Ukrainian territory and styled himself as the Vasil Vishnvani, King of Ukraine. Supported by Emperor Karl I, the boy of 22 was to become the ruler of an Austrian-backed Ukrainian monarchy. Mingling with the peasants, he's become very popular for his ability to live much like them, and his lenient governorship of territories under his command. Fortunately for us, any Austrian plans for Ukrainian monarchy collapsed in 1919 with consolidation of a German-backed hetmanate. Archduke Wilhelm fled back to Galicia. But now the pretender has shown his face at a rally at Proskurov, alongside Simon Petliura, calling for resistance against the German puppet hetman. Tell the Habsburg to go back to Vienna. Get him out of here. Okay. Well, this doesn't look good. Representatives of URDP have suggested temporary nationalization of banking centers in Kiev, Odessa, Kharkov, and Ekaterinivslav. Nailed that. To allow the central government to liquidate unprofitable ventures and stop any economic freefalls. Obviously, this proposal has met fierce resistance from representatives of VSZV and Protofis, who are weary of government intervention in financial affairs of their benefactors. Surprisingly enough, behind closed doors, members of the SHD voiced their support for initiatives citing excesses of unbridled capitalism and lack of economic centralization as main reasons for the current crisis. Well, the government will safeguard the banking systems from sudden shocks. We'll just hope that we don't regret that. Oh. The Ukrainian state is inexorably tied to the institution of a hetmanate. In many ways, Pavlo Skoropadsky has been driving force behind the state since its inception, although the Ottoman ministers have led the state's government since the end of the Great War. The hetman alone has the right to nominate them and thus determine the government's character. By design, the hetman is seen by his supporters as a guarantor of all of the state and society and a bulwark against radical politics. After that, the state was founded with the support of land-owning interest and the German military and wasted no time in reverting Republican social reforms. As Ukraine's Independence Day has Republican connotations, the government and supporters instead prefer April 29th, the anniversary of Skoropadsky's election as hetman, as a primary national holiday. A military parade is traditionally held in Kiev to celebrate, followed by a public address by the hetman, praising the state's achievements within the last year. The Great Cossack Crowd and local Cossack Council will often organize their own events, including their own military parades. Many former April 29th functions have been noted to have a strong paramilitary character to them, perhaps a reflection of where the state's support comes. Beyond those jingoistic displays, conservative politicians often make other gestures. Ottoman Minister Doroshenko opted to make a statement applauding the work his government has done, expressing hope that the hetman will be seen as a symbol for all Ukrainians. The Democratic Agrarians have also held their own 29th celebrations, heavily attended by both the party's leaders and their own aspirants. Pro-Office Industrial Lobby and the Union of Landowners have each also offered the hetman their congratulations, with the latter even inviting him to their own event. The hetman, perhaps tactfully, refused. Tell me about the hetmanists. Politically, hetmanism has been represented by several conservative organizations since the elections were reinstated in 1920. Chief among them is the Democratic Agrarian Party, traditionally the largest hetmanist party. Those guys are the champion of the post-independence status quo, holding an agrarian law and order platform that favors a strong government combined with interventionist economic policies. However, they also view the status quo as a balance between the hetman's role and the initiative of his ministers. As such, they support the continued influence of a Soim, with a minority even favoring a fully ceremonial hetmanate. While the party has never led one, they have acted as a bedrock of government for the last 16 years. Also notable are the Union of Industry, Trade, Finance, and Agriculture, and the All-Ukrainian Union of Landowners. The respective lobbying bodies for industrial and landowning interests, Pro-Office and the VSZV, have wielded their large political weight to shape policy in a pro-business and pro-landowner direction. The SZV is especially powerful. The hetmanate was arguably their creation, and they have continuously frustrated land reform efforts since the 1920s. Their partners in Pro-Office have also grown in importance as the economy has, something both bodies credit to their semi-permanent role in the government. However, the unrest of the mid-1920s suggested to devoted hetmanites that Soim was not capable of preserving national stability, and a stronger hand is needed. The then loyalist colonel named Boris Hamzin partnered with great Cossack Rada's head, Ivan Poltavets Austrianista, to form a union of hetmanist state builders. The SHT is a semi-secret society that seeks the rationalization of a state along autocratic lines, at least until it can be secured more thoroughly. Their secrecy gives them a bad reputation, and the hetman has accordingly kept them distant, yet some Soimists fear that another wave of unrest could play to their advantage. For people notionally behind one man, they don't seem to like each other very much. True. Look at that. The relief bill is going to pass at this rate, and I'm happy about that. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can do one more focus, I believe. I don't think I need. If I do this, that means I need the market liberals, and I don't think I want to need them. Let's try the railway issue. The railways are the lifeblood of the Ukrainian economy, and our German benefactors have poured much capital into improving them. Unfortunately, many of the improved rail lines on the new gauge are German-owned. With their workers striking, we could ask for a share of the ownership. We could. What way are we going? We're probably going that, Pop. Jason? Probably going that way. That's kind of what I'm leaning at right now. It is not known what in particular had spurred this invitation, but leaders of all Soim parliamentary factions were invited to the hetman's private residence several days ago. The details of this meeting are kept secret, but judging by the reaction in the URDP headquarters, one can assume that Skoropadsky has tried to influence ongoing negotiations regarding a relief bill in a more direct manner. As of now, this intervention has seemed to produce an effect opposite to desirable. URDP deputies are furious, and even some independents and more democratically inclined members have withdrawn their support for the bill in protest. The future negotiations is looking extremely grim now. Maybe this was a mistake. You think? Okay, we're gonna get another boost that should just about revert a lot of that. Okay. The prices of agricultural goods lowering almost by the day, we've accumulated significant amounts of unsold grain in our stockpiles. Representatives of VSZV and Pro-Office suggest to keep selling the grain, even at these unfavorable prices. Each source of revenue counts, they argue, and besides, gain funds may be directed to bailing out various businesses, mostly associated with their benefactors, of course, thus keeping people employed and out on the street. The URDP was quick to denounce the proposal, stating that money raised this way should be used to directly help the ailing agricultural sector. Well, this might backfire on us considering the current political climate. There we go. That gets the URDP back on our side, and the bill is still probably going to pass at this rate. We got the railway issue. Oh, I think it's 5 total. I think I understand now. Not including this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. We'll do export subsidies. The rules of Middle Europa forbid unilateral tariff increases, but they do not forbid state subsidies for key sectors. Though through export subsidies, we can keep our industries afloat in the storm. There we go. Shoot, what do we want? Let's do machine tools. With most revenue sources from the state drying up, and with no signs of improvement in the near future, Soim deputies are pondering their possible options. The RDP suggests implementing an emergency tax side on the upper classes, arguing that in the conditions of severe economic inequality existing in Ukraine, the poor social groups have been hit the hardest, and thus it's the responsibility of the wealthy to support the state during the crisis. Representatives of the VSZV and Protofis oppose the proposal, saying that increasing the net financial burden on the entrepreneurial class right now will only worsen the business climate in the country. A possible alternative to the solution is an emergency loan from Berlin, which will help us to weather the worst part of the crisis. It's worth noting that several of Protofis representatives have hinted that this question is of utmost importance to their benefactors, and choice are made to find relationships with the organization in the foreseeable future. Well, more wealthy ones pay more. It's only fair. It's only fair, right? Fuck. The VDR has declared a general strike across the industrial centers of the country. Much of the countryside has already been swayed into civil resistance, but now the unrest has also spread to the cities. Most of Kiev is at a standstill, and unions in Odessa, Kharkov, and Sevastopol have also swiftly joined the battle. Most worryingly, the Borabits and other hardline socialists have bounced back into the national relevancy as vocal leaders of the strikes, spearheading the anti-Hetman rallies in many cities. The demands of VDR are nearly entirely unreasonable, modeled after near socialist programs of White Ruthenia. For now, the police are keeping watchful peace after an incident is under control. The situation seems prone to escalate. Shit. No! No! Don't do that. Railway workers and dock workers unions have joined the general strike with paralyzing the transportation system across the country. Trains packed with cars full of early grain and other agricultural products lie in empty stations, with their contents slowly rotting. Miners and steel foundries are unable to send their products to the factories. Export goods clutter harbors as ships are not being loaded. The demand of strikers has grown ever harsher, some even calling for the abdication of Hetman himself, and the establishment of a free and democratic republic. It's getting a bit out of hand now. You think? Okay, can't do any of this. We'll do what we were starting here. Okay. Seeing no other choice, the government has opened negotiations with VDR's General Strike Committee, made some gestures of goodwill, such as freeing a number of imprisoned strikers. While it seems hopeless to reach a real compromise, at least the railways are allowed to work again, if only maintain the basic demands of the people. This truce for the duration of negotiations has given both sides time to scheme for the worse, and is by many declared as a mere trick to play for time. Okay, we got unions and cooperatives. Well, we'll start with this first demand. State-supported professional unions and farmer cooperatives are one of our main instruments in controlling labor relations. With the severity of a current crisis, it's clear that they are struggling to maintain proper order among workers and peasants. A possible solution may lie in the empowering of these organizations, to granting them more freedom in labor negotiations and support from the state. Naturally, the question is how far we are ready to go with this idea. The URDP, as usual, suggests granting state unions almost free-handed bargaining with employers and minimizing punishments for strikes. Representatives of Protofis, accusing the URDP of crypto-Bolshevism, argue for only tokens amount of support. Other factions express their preference for compromise solutions. The current crisis requires radical solutions. What can I say? And current situation also calls for an end to this video. So, I'm leaving it here, gang. Thank you as always for watching. Like, dislike if you didn't. Leaving comments, feedback on comments next below. Hit the sub button if you want to keep up to date with uploads. Check out various links down in the description box below. And that's it for now, friends. I thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye now.